I had been secretly married to the powerful businesswoman Su Wanling for 7 years. She didn't love me, and she loved our 2 children even less. She never allowed them to call her mom. No matter how hard they tried to win her over, she remained cold and indifferent. At the school's parent-teacher conference, the kids looked at me with hopeful eyes and asked, "Daddy, all the other kids have their moms with them, can we ask mommy to come too?" To my surprise, the woman who had always been so heartless actually nodded and agreed. But on the day of the conference, she showed up with the man she had always loved, her first love, and his son, freshly back from abroad. "Daddy," my child sobbed. "Why did mommy come with someone else's kid instead of us? Does she really hate us that much?" My heart ached as I pulled them tightly into my arms, my voice trembling with sorrow and helplessness. "The person mommy truly loves has come back. Let us leave together, okay?" 1. Zimu, are you really planning to quit? I paused and glanced at my colleague, forcing a weak smile. Yeah, the kid's mom is overseas alone. It's tough for her. I need to bring the kids over to be with her. I stood up and walked toward the printer. Fair enough. A grown man raising 2 kids on his own, it's not right, you know? You need a woman around. The male coworker leaned in with a teasing grin. You know, we all just assumed you were a single dad. I gave a bitter smile. Just then, laughter rang out from the nearby CEO's office. Wanling, I'm craving that Cantonese restaurant near campus. Haven't had it in 7 years, I really miss it. Su Wanling walked out, arm in arm with Shen Haoshuan. I quickly turned my head and looked away. My coworker looked puzzled. Zimu? You okay? I shook my head. Yeah. It's nothing. No one knew Su Wanling was my wife. This was our 7th year of secret marriage. And the 6th year she had refused to let our children call her mom. She had clearly promised yesterday to attend the kids' parent-teacher conference. But as the time approached, she became unreachable. When the kids and I, filled with disappointment, arrived at the classroom, we saw her already there sitting beside Shen Haoshuan and his child, acting like she was part of their family. That was the moment I completely gave up. I decided to leave. Today, I came to the office to officially resign, only to witness their public display of affection. As they passed by me, I instinctively called out. 1. Su Wanling suddenly stopped in her tracks. Her brows furrowed slightly. She turned around and looked at me, displeased, her tone warning and distant. Assistant Zhao, what is it? I took a deep breath and handed her the document in my hand, lowering my voice. President Su, I need your signature on this. She frowned and took the paper. Just as she was about to read it, Shen Haoshuan smiled and said, Wanling, it's been 7 years, do you think that place still has the same owner? Su Wanling smiled sweetly at him, eyes full of warmth. No, I don't think it's changed. Without even glancing at the document, she signed her name, turned back to Shen Haoshuan, and walked away without a second look. My coworker came over with a cup of water, nudged me playfully with his shoulder, and grinned. Zimu, did you see that? Our icy boss lady is finally in bloom. I forced a bitter smile. Su Wanling, who was always so cold to everyone, would light up like a flower whenever Shen Haoshuan appeared. And me? I could wait a lifetime and still never see her bloom. Even worse, my children had never once known a moment of maternal love. 2. Just then, my phone rang. It was the kids' pickup teacher. Mr. Zimu, school let out an hour early today. I've sent Sui and an up in your office elevator. Please pick them up at the elevator entrance. My heart tightened. I looked at the backs of Su Wanling and Shen Haoshuan and said quickly, Thank you, I'll be right there. I rushed out. From a distance, I saw them standing right at the elevator entrance. Su Wanling was leaning in toward Shen Haoshuan, brushing something off his chest. Their posture, it was intimate. Intolerably intimate. At that moment, the elevator doors opened. Inside stood Sui and Nen, hand in hand, smiling as they prepared to step out. But when they looked up and saw who was standing outside the elevator, their steps froze. Panic surged in me. I rushed forward and stood protectively in front of them, blocking their view. Their eyes shifted to me. "Daddy!" Hearing their voices, Su Wanling's expression shifted slightly. She quickly pulled back her hand and put on a mask of indifference. Shin Haoxuan remained oblivious and smiled, holding her hand. "Come on, Wanling. The elevator's here." I silently took a hand of each child and stepped out. As we passed each other, time seemed to freeze. Sui Sui looked longingly at Su Wanling and whispered, "Mommy." I stopped in my tracks, a stabbing pain in my chest. Anan looked up at me, biting her lip. "Daddy, is that the man Auntie likes?" The sadness on her face pierced me. With red eyes, I nodded. We headed back to my desk so I could pack up, but my mind drifted. When the kids were 4, they begged for days before Su Wanling finally agreed to take them to an amusement park. While waiting in line for a ride, Sui Sui saw a glowing balloon and instinctively called out, "Mommy." Su Wanling's face immediately darkened. "How many times do I have to tell you? Don't call me mommy in public." With that, she turned and walked off. Anan panicked and tried to chase her, but tripped and fell. She lay crying on the ground, reaching out. "Mommy, mommy, don't leave us." The crowd swallowed Su Wanling quickly. Anan sobbed uncontrollably on the ground. Sui Sui crouched beside her, crying too. From that day on, Anan stopped calling her mommy. She called her auntie and became a quiet, withdrawn child. 3. Back home, Sui Sui and Anan sat quietly, not saying a word. I looked at them, heart aching, but I didn't know how to comfort them. Not long after, Su Wanling burst through the door in a hurry. She went straight to the bedroom, rummaging through drawers and cabinets like she was looking for something. I stood there, watching her coldly, fury boiling in my chest. When she finally found what she needed and was about to leave, I couldn't hold it in any longer. My voice was sharp, cold. "Don't you have anything to say? You promised to go to the parent-teacher conference with Sui Sui and Anan yesterday. And what were you doing instead? Playing family with someone else's kid?" Su Wanling paused at the door, turned her head slightly, and replied coolly, "I'll explain later." I was about to explode when suddenly, Sui Sui ran out of the bedroom, crying out, "Mommy!" Su Wanling turned around, her face still blank and cold. Sui Sui flinched and shrank back in fear, clearly startled. Leaning against the car door, Su Wanling stared at her in silence for a moment. Then she looked at me and said flatly, "Haoxuan and Tian just came back and aren't familiar with the area. I'm spending time with them today. You take the kids to bed early." Then she turned and got into the car, driving off without a second glance. I watched the car disappear into the distance, then slowly closed my eyes, heart filled with helpless sorrow. It was clear now leaving was the right decision. Night fell. I forced myself to stay awake and comfort the kids until they finally lay down. But even in bed, Sui Sui and Anan stared at the ceiling, eyes wide open, clearly weighed down with thoughts. Then Anan whispered, "Daddy, are we really leaving Auntie?" Sui Sui sat up too and held my hand tightly. "Daddy, we don't want to leave Mommy. Can we give her one more chance? Our birthday is the day after tomorrow. If Mommy comes to spend it with us, can we stay?" Her small voice trembled with hope, her innocent face filled with longing. I looked at them, pain tearing through my chest. My nails dug deep into my palm as I clenched my fists. After a long pause, I gave a firm nod. Once they finally drifted off to sleep, I returned to the guest room, opened my laptop, and began drafting the divorce papers. Each keystroke felt like driving another nail into the coffin of our shattered marriage. When I finished, I picked up my phone and sent a message to Su Wanling, who was undoubtedly still with Shin Haoxuan and his son. "You broke the kids' hearts at the parent-teacher conference yesterday. Their birthday is the day after tomorrow. Can you please just spend the day with them?" I gripped the phone tightly, silently praying she would say yes. After a long while, the screen lit up. Su Wanling's name popped up. Only one word. Okay. The next day, the kids heard the news. Their gloomy expressions instantly vanished, replaced by bright, beaming smiles. Sway Sway jumped up with joy. Then let us make a cake together tomorrow. The whole day, they were giddy with anticipation, counting down the hours until their birthday. 4. On the morning of their birthday, I brought the kids into the kitchen to make a cake together. The kitchen was full of laughter and the scent of vanilla. Flour dusted all our faces. It was messy, but warm and full of love. Soon, an imperfect cake sat on the table, decorated with a picture drawn in whipped cream, a family of 4, hand in hand, smiling. Simple lines, but bursting with their innocent hope for a warm, complete family. Sway Sway held a tube of red icing and grinned at me. Daddy, do you think Mommy will like our homemade cake? I froze for a second, then forced a smile and nodded. She'll definitely love it. Sway Sway's eyes turned into happy crescents as she turned to Anan. When Mommy comes home, let us give her the first slice, okay? Okay. Anan nodded hard, then hesitated and asked. But will Auntie really come back to celebrate with us? I hesitated. She will. Sway Sway clapped her hands excitedly. Anan's lips curved into a faint smile. I looked at them with nothing but love. Su Wanling, please, don't let them down again. Time passed slowly. Outside, the sun dipped below the skyline, casting golden red hues across the city. Lights flickered on one by one as night embraced everything. Inside the villa, the clock ticked silently. It was 10 p.m. I sat at the table, the cake untouched. Sway Sway and Anan quietly played with a worn-out box of building blocks nearby, the only gift Su Wanling had ever given them. Their favorite toy. Suddenly, Anan looked up, eyes red, and asked softly. Daddy, is Auntie not coming back? Sway Sway stopped building, turned her head to me, eyes full of the same unspoken question. Panic rose in me. I forced a smile, trying to cover up the truth. She probably got held up. I stood up quickly, trying to distract them. It's okay. Daddy will always be here with you. The two children held hands and walked to the table, staring at the cake that held all their hopes. Sway Sway, pretending to be indifferent, whispered. Then you celebrate with us instead, Daddy. I looked at these two heartbreakingly mature children, and my chest tightened with pain. Su Wanling, once again, you've let us down. This is the last time. We're done. When the kids were finally asleep, I gently closed their bedroom door. Time passed. The clock ticked toward 3 a.m. That's when the front door opened softly. Su Wanling stepped inside. She paused when she saw me asleep on the couch, then tiptoed over and gently draped a blanket over me. I suddenly opened my eyes, my voice cold. Do you even remember what you promised? She stepped back slightly, caught off guard. Her gaze fell on the untouched cake still sitting on the dining table. Her expression wavered. Sorry, I got caught up in work. I threw the blanket off. It's fine. I didn't care anymore. I stood up, picked up the divorce agreement, flipped to the last page, and handed her a pen. Sign it. She took the papers, confused. Just as she was about to speak, her phone rang. She picked up immediately. Shen Haoxuan's anxious voice echoed through the line. Wanling? Where are you? Tian's burning up. He won't go to the hospital unless you're here. Her expression changed instantly. I'll be right there. And the pipes at my place burst. Do you think it's okay if I bring Tian to stay at yours for a few days? No problem. She hung up, took the pen, and signed her name without another glance. Then she handed the document back to me and turned to leave. As she walked out the door, she said over her shoulder. Haoxuan's place is a mess. He and Tian will be staying here for a bit. You should take the kids and stay elsewhere for a few days. I stood there frozen, watching her walk away. Her words echoing in my mind. My wife was kicking me and her own children out to make space for her first love and his son. What a joke. How utterly pathetic. Chapter 5. The next morning, I packed our suitcases and took Swaysway and Ainin to leave. Just as we stepped outside the villa, the front door swung open. Su Wanling walked in with Shin Haoxuan and Shin Tian. The air froze. A flicker of panic crossed Su Wanling's face, like someone caught red-handed. I understood immediately she was afraid I'd exposed the truth. Shin Haoxuan looked surprised. Assistant Zhao? What are you doing here? Su Wanling quickly stepped in front of me, blocking his view, and forced a smile. Zhao is actually a distant relative of mine. His lease ended recently, so he has been staying with me for a few days. Oh, I see. Shin Haoxuan nodded as if everything made perfect sense. Watching her scramble to distance herself, I felt nothing but overwhelming sorrow. I was about to speak, but Ainin took a step forward, looked up at Su Wanling, and politely said, "Hello, Auntie." Then he turned back, gripping my hand tightly. "Daddy, let us go." I nodded, casting a cold glance at Su Wanling. "President Su, thanks for hosting us." Swaysway paused beside her and whispered, "Goodbye, Auntie." It was the first time Swaysway had called her that. No matter how badly Su Wanling had treated them in the past, Swaysway had always insisted on calling her mom. Hearing that one word, Auntie Su Wanling froze. She looked at Swaysway, shocked, then reached out and grabbed my arm. What did Swaysway just call me? Seeing Swaysway's disappointed little face, I couldn't help but let out a bitter chuckle. Auntie. Isn't that what you've always wanted, President Su? Her eyes dimmed. She slowly let go of my arm. Give me a few days. I'll explain everything to Swaysway and Ainin. I let out a cold laugh. Sure, President Su. I'll have them wait for you. I turned around to take the kids away. But just then, Su Wanling suddenly called out, "Wait." She rushed forward, holding a cake in her hands, and offered it to the kids. Swaysway, Ainin, happy birthday. The two children lit up instantly. But before they could reach for the cake, Shin Haoxuan walked over with Shin Tian and smiled. Wanling knew Tian loves cake, so she picked one up. What a coincidence, it's your kid's birthday too. I hope you don't mind, Assistant Zhao. Ainin froze, his hand halfway to the cake. My face instantly went cold. That one light remark felt like a bucket of ice water dumped on my head. So this wasn't tea for my kids after all. We had never truly been in Su Wanling's heart. But Swaysway still looked up at her, smiling. Auntie, can you eat the cake with us? Su Wanling hesitated, then smiled back. Of course. Let us eat it together before you go. Swaysway gave me a pleading look. Wanting to leave them a good memory, I gave in and nodded. Everyone sat around the table. Su Wanling sliced the cake and handed 2 pieces to the kids with a smile. Happy birthday, Swaysway and Ainin. They looked at me. I picked up a spoon, took a bite, and smiled at them encouragingly. Seeing that, the two of them picked up their spoons eagerly. But the moment I tasted the cake, my expression changed. I spun around, knocked both of their slices off the table, and shouted, "Don't eat it!" Everyone was stunned. Shin Tian immediately hid behind Shin Haoxuan, frightened. Su Wanling's face turned stormy. Zhao Zimu, what the hell is wrong with you? I checked both children, then turned to her, furious. There's mango in the cake. Swaysway and Ainin are allergic. Don't you know that? Su Wanling froze, face pale. I'm sorry, I didn't know. I gave a hollow, broken laugh. She didn't even know her own children's allergies. She didn't deserve to be called their mother. Ainin stood up, his eyes red, and tugged my hand. Daddy, let us just go. Okay. My voice trembled as I gave a faint smile. I looked back at Su Wanling. Sorry, President Su. I overreacted. It's understandable you didn't know. Thank you for your hospitality. We won't trouble you anymore. I picked up the suitcase, held the children close, and turned toward the door. After a few steps, I suddenly stopped, turned back, and said with a smile, "Oh, right, President Sue, I left a little parting gift for you in the bedroom. Don't forget to check it." Sue Wanling stood rooted in place. She instinctively tried to step forward, but her legs felt like they were filled with lead. I carried the kids into the taxi. As we drove away, I looked back one last time at the villa. The cage we had lived in for 7 long years. "Sue Wanling, this time, I'm truly setting you free." I closed the door and told the driver, "Airport, please." Chapter 6. The taxi slowly pulled away, disappearing at the end of the street. Inside the Sue family villa, Sue Wanling stood staring at the closed door, a strange emptiness settling in her chest. She turned around awkwardly, her eyes falling on the messy remains of the birthday cake on the table, speechless. Shin Tian ran off to play, while Shin Haoxuan began cleaning up. As he glanced up and saw Sue Wanling dazing out, he was about to speak when her phone suddenly rang. It was her manager's anxious voice on the other end. "President Sue, Jingguan Group is pushing for progress on the contract. Are you available to take a look?" A wave of inexplicable irritation rose in Sue Wanling's chest. Her voice was sharp and impatient. That project was Assistant Zhao's responsibility. Go find him if you want the contract. The manager hesitated before responding carefully. President Sue, Assistant Zhao has already resigned." Sue Wanling froze, her expression darkening immediately. "Resigned? When did this happen? Why wasn't I informed?" The manager answered in a panic, "The afternoon before last. The resignation letter had your signature on it." In a flash, Sue Wanling remembered the moment I handed her the resignation papers, how she de-signed them without a glance. Panic crept onto her face. She quickly picked up her phone and dialed my number. But all she got was a cold, automated response. "The number you have dialed is currently unavailable." She stared at her phone in disbelief, dialing again and again only to be met with that same unfeeling voice. Just then, Shin Tian's voice rang out from the side. He had kicked over a stack of blocks and now complained with disdain. "Why are these blocks so old and ugly? Like garbage." Sue Wanling looked up and her heart clenched. Those were the building blocks she had casually picked up from the supermarket years ago. She barely remembered buying them, but Sui and Anan had been overjoyed, playing with them for days without sleeping properly. They had treasured those blocks for years. Before she could respond, Shin Haoxuan's voice chimed in behind her. "This cake is so ugly." She turned and saw him standing by the open fridge. He looked at her, frowning. "Wanling, who made this cake? It's hideous. Want me to throw it out for you?" Her face turned cold in an instant. "Don't touch it." Startled, Shin Haoxuan paused, clearly confused. Sue Wanling rushed over and stopped in front of the fridge. Inside sat half a cake. On its surface, drawn in whipped cream, was a simple picture of a family of 4 holding hands and smiling. Next to the cake was a folded note. Her hands trembling, Sue Wanling picked it up. In crooked handwriting mixed with pinyin, the note read, "Mommy, we love you. Can you love us back?" Tears welled up instantly in her eyes. She closed them tightly, a wave of regret and guilt crashing over her. Shin Haoxuan noticed her odd expression and walked over, concerned. "Wanling, what's wrong?" She slowly opened her eyes, not saying a word, just staring at the half-finished cake. Then, my words echoed in her mind. "Oh, right, President Sue. I left a gift for you in the bedroom. Don't forget to check it." As if struck by a sudden realization, she turned and bolted toward the bedroom. She flung the door open, and there it was, a gift box on the bedside table. She snatched it up, frantically opening it. Inside was a single document, its title in bold letters. Divorce Agreement. Chapter 7. An hour later, the taxi came to a steady stop at the airport. The soft screech of tires echoed against the curb. I pulled our suitcase from the trunk, holding Sui in one hand. Sui held Anan in the other as we walked toward the terminal with firm, steady steps. At the security gate, I knelt down, carefully adjusting their collars and sleeves. "We're off to a brand new place," I said softly, a warm smile in my eyes. "It's the beginning of a whole new life." Sway and Anan nodded obediently. Though their faces still carried a hint of sadness, more than anything, they looked hopeful. After clearing security, we waited in the lounge. The kids curled up beside me and slowly drifted off to sleep. As I held them close, I made a silent vow. I will give them the safe, happy life they deserve. The plane took off, breaking through the clouds, flying toward the future. Back at the Su family villa, Su Wanling was still paralyzed, sitting on the floor, staring blankly at the divorce papers in her hands. She hadn't expected it. She had personally signed the very document that ended her family. "No, this can't be happening," she whispered in disbelief, her voice full of despair. Her trembling hands clutched the agreement tightly, knuckles turning white. Visions of Sway and Anan's sweet smiles flooded her mind. And me, gentle, patient, but always carrying a hint of quiet disappointment in my eyes. Moments she had long ignored now surged back like a tidal wave. She remembered the first time Sway had called her mommy timid, full of anticipation. She had crushed that moment with a single phone call from Shin Haoxuan. Anan, every time he came home with a good grade, had tried to share his joy with her only to be brushed off with a "mommy is busy." And me always quietly holding up the weight of the home. Had she ever truly cared about how I felt? Snapping back to reality, she frantically picked up her phone again, dialing over and over. But each time, all she heard was, "The number you have dialed is currently unavailable. Zimu, please come back, I was wrong." She murmured into the silence, her voice shaking with sorrow. Stumbling to her feet, she staggered out of the bedroom. She had to find me. Apologize. Explain everything. She couldn't lose us. "Haoxuan, something urgent came up, I need to go out." Without waiting for a reply, she rushed for the door. Shin Haoxuan called after her, worry rising. "Wanling? What happened? Why are you in such a hurry?" "I don't have time to explain. I'll tell you when I get back." Without even turning her head, she vanished through the door. Shin Haoxuan stood frozen, watching her leave. A growing unease twisted in his chest. Something was slipping beyond his control. Meanwhile, high above the clouds, I powered down my phone and removed the SIM card, cutting off all contact with the past. All the pain, the disappointment, I left it behind. Hours later, we arrived in a vibrant, unfamiliar land. As we stepped out of the airport, fresh air filled our lungs. I took a deep breath and led the children into our new life. We moved into a small but cozy house I'd rented in advance. After a bit of tidying and arranging, it already felt like home. I began sending out resumes, and thanks to my prior experience, quickly landed a decent job. Day by day, we adjusted to our new life. Sway and Anan made friends at school. Their grades were excellent. And every time I saw the joy on their faces, I knew it was all worth it. Life without Su Wanling wasn't so bad after all. 8. Su Wanling sped all the way to my hometown. If I were to leave, that would be the place I'd most likely go. Clinging to what she believed was a thorough understanding of me, Su Wanling consoled herself it was just me throwing a tantrum. When she knocked on my family's door, my mother opened it. The moment she saw Su Wanling, her expression turned cold. Her voice was sharp and unforgiving. "What are you doing here?" I had told my mother everything long ago, holding nothing back. So naturally, her attitude was far from kind, perhaps even a little hostile. "Mom, I'm here to find Zimu and the kids. I know I was wrong. I want to apologize to them, please, let me see them," Su Wanling pleaded, her voice thick with desperation. "You finally know you were wrong?" My mother's words cut deep, dripping with anger and disappointment. "Do you know how much Zimu has suffered over the years for your sake? Do you have any idea what he gave up for you? What use are your words now?" "I do know." Su Wanling's eyes filled with tears. "I've thought about everything, every single thing I did wrong. I can't live without Zimu and the kids. Please just give me a chance. But my mother, having witnessed all the hurt I'd endured, had long since wished I would leave Su Wanling behind. She didn't budge. Without saying another word, she turned and went into her bedroom to rest. The next morning, Su Wanling was already sitting in the living room before my mother woke up. When she emerged from her room, she completely ignored Su Wanling and busied herself with her own affairs. Realizing we weren't at the Zhao household, Su Wanling lowered her voice and asked sincerely, "Mom, I just want to know where Zimu went. I'm still his wife, and I'm the mother of his children. I have the right to know where they are." My mother looked at the woman before her, tired and frail, and let out a long, helpless sigh. "Wanling, the divorce papers have already been signed. It's over. You and Zimu are finished." Even so, Su Wanling learned nothing of our whereabouts. It was as if we had vanished. No one at work had seen us, none of our friends had heard anything. We simply disappeared from her world. And in that moment, Su Wanling felt true despair. She had no idea where I had gone. My mother wouldn't tell her. The light in her world flickered out. After we left, Su Wanling's life quickly unraveled. At work, she was constantly distracted and frequently made mistakes. Several key projects were impacted. Even Shen Haoshuan began to sense that Su Wanling's feelings for him might not be as deep as he had believed. A rift began to grow between them. One day, Shen Haoshuan was packing clothes in the bedroom. As he opened a drawer, he found a photo album Su Wanling had hidden deep inside. Curious, he flipped it open. Inside were pictures of Su Wanling, me, and the children, page after page. Staring at those photos, a wave of emotion surged through him. Jealousy. Bitterness. Resentment. "Wanling, why do you have these pictures?" He walked out holding the album, questioning her directly. Su Wanling was lost in her thoughts when his voice startled her. These are just old photos. I haven't had time to put them away," she explained awkwardly. Shen Haoshuan pressed on. "Put them away? They're not your relatives, are they? Who are they to you, really?" His tone grew sharp. "You still can't let go of them, can you? What am I to you, Wanling?" Annoyed and overwhelmed, Su Wanling snapped. "Haoshuan, stop it. I'm really not in the mood right now. I'm making a fuss? Tell me honestly, have you ever truly loved me?" Shen Haoshuan was furious. But Su Wanling said nothing. Her silence made his heart sink even further. In a fit of rage, he flung the album to the ground and stormed into the bedroom, slamming the door behind him. 9. Su Wanling stared at the scattered photos on the floor, her heart aching. Slowly, she crouched down, gently picking them up one by one. Each child's innocent smile pierced deeper into her soul. Like a silent film, every moment we had shared replayed in her mind, vivid, unstoppable. In that moment, Su Wanling made up her mind. No matter what it took, she would find us. She would apologize. She would make it right. She pulled every string she could, using every connection, burning through time and money. And finally, she discovered our whereabouts. Without hesitation, Su Wanling booked the earliest flight and set off to find us. When she arrived in the city where we now lived, she wandered through unfamiliar streets, asking around. Eventually, she found the small house where the children and I now lived. Standing in front of the door, 1,000 emotions surged through her. She took a deep breath, raised her hand, and knocked. The door creaked open. When I saw Su Wanling standing there, my heart skipped for a split second but quickly settled again. "Zimu, I finally found you," Su Wanling said, her eyes filled with remorse and longing. "Zimu, I was wrong. I truly was. Let us not get divorced, come back with me. You and the kids come home." I looked at her calmly. My voice was flat. "Come back with you? And what about Shen Haoshuan and his son?" "Su Wanling, it's over. The kids and I are doing well here. We don't need you anymore." As I tried to close the door, she stopped me, panic rising. "I'll make Haoshuan move out." "Zimu, I know I failed you and the kids. I ignored your feelings. But I've finally realized my mistakes. Please, give me a chance to make it right. At that moment, Sui and Anan came running over after hearing the commotion. When they saw her, a flicker of complex emotion crossed their eyes. Sui stepped beside me and asked softly, "Auntie, why are you here?" That one word auntie stabbed deep into Su Wanling's heart. Regret crashed over her like a tidal wave. She crouched down slowly, gazing at the children with trembling eyes. Sui and I was wrong. I really was. I'll be with you from now on, I promise. Come home with mommy, okay? But Anan shook her head. Auntie, we have our own life now. Please just leave. The children's words shattered Su Wanling. She looked at us, realizing there was no going back. Still, she couldn't give up, not like this. Just then, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, and her expression immediately tensed. Something urgent came up at the company. I have to go. But I'll be back. Soon. I promise. I gave her a neutral look and replied quietly. Go ahead. Su Wanling turned and walked away, casting one last glance back at us. I stood in the doorway, watching her leave. My heart was a tangle of mixed emotions. But I knew this much: I would never forgive Su Wanling. I had to protect the life I'd rebuilt for me and my children. Back at the company, Su Wanling immediately instructed her assistant to have Shin Haoxuan and his son move out of the villa. Then she plunged herself into work. She knew that until she solved the company's crisis, she'd have no time, no right to ask for another chance. 10. While Su Wanling was busy resolving the company's crisis, Shin Haoxuan showed up at the office. Wanling, what is going on with you these days? Why did you suddenly ask me and Tian to move out of the villa? Why have you become so cold to me? Shin Haoxuan confronted her the moment he saw her, confusion written all over his face. Su Wanling replied calmly, Haoxuan, we need to talk about our relationship. Talk about what? Don't tell me you're still thinking about Zhao Zimu and those two kids? Shin Haoxuan snapped, anger quickly rising. I'm the one you truly love. All these years, weren't you just waiting for me to come back? But Su Wanling responded directly, without hesitation. Haoxuan, I don't want to dwell on the past anymore. All I know is that I can't lose my family. Family? You call what you had with that man a family? He was just someone you passed the time with. I am your true home. Shin Haoxuan's voice rose with emotion. Haoxuan, stop. I've made up my mind. I'm going to win Zimu and the children back. I want to live a good life with them. From now on, we should keep our distance. Su Wanling's tone was firm. No. I won't let you leave me. Shin Haoxuan suddenly lunged forward, trying to pull her into his arms. Su Wanling backed away quickly, rejecting his embrace. Haoxuan, calm down. I can't calm down. I can't lose you. His anger boiled over, and in the midst of their struggle, Shin Haoxuan began to grab at her forcefully. Su Wanling was shocked and furious. At that moment, the company's security rushed in. Seizing the opportunity, they quickly subdued Shin Haoxuan. President Su, are you all right? One of the guards asked, professional and alert. Su Wanling shook her head, her expression pale and drained. Shin Haoxuan was escorted out by security. Su Wanling collapsed into her chair, her heart weighed down by exhaustion. She never imagined things would spiral to this point. Her so-called first love was nothing like the person she had clung to in her memories. After several intense days of effort, Su Wanling finally resolved the company's crisis. She didn't stop to dwell on how deeply the company had been hurt. Her mind was only on one thing. She couldn't wait to go abroad to find me. But from a neighbor, she learned that I had taken the kids out. She searched everywhere, anxiously combing the streets. Until, finally, in a quiet corner of a park, she found us. I was sitting on a bench, watching Sui and Anan playing on the grass. Sunlight poured down, bathing me in warmth. A peaceful, genuine smile rested on my face. Su Wanling walked up quietly and sat down beside me. I've taken care of everything at the company, she said softly. I turned to look at her. That's good. I'm glad it's all settled. Her voice was sincere, almost trembling with emotion. These past few days, I've been thinking a lot. I know I've hurt you and the kids deeply. I truly regret everything. Please give me a chance to make it right. Let me be a good wife, a good mother. She turned her face toward me, her eyes full of honesty. I looked at her and was silent for a long time. Finally, I spoke, my voice calm, but heavy with weariness. Su Wanling, we were in a hidden marriage for 7 years. You wouldn't even let the kids call you mom. Why was that? Wasn't it because you thought I loved you too deeply to ever leave? Because you were waiting for another chance with Shin Haoshuan? Su Wanling, some wounds once inflicted are hard to heal. The kids and I waited for you countless times in the dark, and every time, we were met with disappointment. I wouldn't let myself or the kids go through that pain again. She reached out, desperation in her voice. I really will change. I promise. Just give me one more chance. But I shook my head. Su Wanling, I won't forgive you. Life without you has been good for me and the kids. Between us, it's over. Please don't disturb our lives anymore. With that, I stood up and walked toward Sui Sui and Anan. Su Wanling sat frozen on the bench, watching our backs fade into the distance. In that moment, her entire world collapsed. The happiness she had once taken for granted, the warmth she had pushed away, was now gone like a mirage, unreachable and forever lost. The last rays of sunset fell on her shoulders, but they could not penetrate the cold darkness inside her. She knew, with devastating clarity this time, she had truly lost the most precious thing in her life. The warmth and trust she had cast aside with her own hands would never return. From that moment on, our lives started anew. Without Su Wanling, we were doing just fine. Though she still tried to contact me afterward, I never gave her another chance. In this new city, the children and I worked hard, living a peaceful life filled with quiet happiness. The days that had passed, though far from perfect, were now just memories. What mattered now was to keep moving forward, bravely, and embrace the future that belonged to us. The end.